What's going on, gamers? Here we are back once again with some more Outriders, and today I'm just going to be going over my thoughts on why Outriders as a whole really needs a different endgame. An activity that you can sink your teeth into, possibly a horde mode or endless wave mode of sorts, something that you can actually get together as a team, and why at the moment it just doesn't work out well. So if you want to know my thoughts on it, then stay tuned, that's coming up next. Welcome back, guys and girls. As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, then why not hit that subscribe and bell icon. I'll bring you all the latest and greatest in gaming, hints, tips, guides, builds, and just some fun gameplay of the latest games. But for today, I'm here to tell you why they've got to change the endgame of Outriders, and why at the moment the game doesn't really work how it's intended. Now, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy Outriders, but there's not that much to do at endgame. There's a lot of issues with the game still, as a lot of the community and myself know about. They're trying to fix it. Fingers crossed they will. I don't know if they can, but I guess we'll find out eventually if people are still around. But for the moment, I'm here to say why it's not quite gelling for the endgame experience. Now, obviously we know about the connection. That is probably the main thing. The connection at the moment, because it's not dedicated servers, is kind of horrible. I'm not gonna lie, myself and almost everyone I've ever played with always have issues. It's very hit and miss, and it's the reason why a lot of people end up playing solo. But the game itself is designed mainly to be played as a multiplayer experience. Now, don't get me wrong, I know you can do speedruns and you can do them solo and you can gear up faster that way. But in general, games like this are supposed to be played in a team so you can gel all your moves together, take on your foes, and like the endgame at the moment, the Eye of the Storm, it actually has to be played in a team, cooperatively, when I can say that word, in order to complete it to gold. However, the Eye of the Storm I do not class as true endgame. You can get it to under the 4 or 5 minute mark if you're playing really well with a solid team, and that to me just isn't true endgame material. Now, it is fun a couple of times if you want to do it, but after that you're probably not going to go back to it. That's not a real endgame activity. And the expeditions, which again are endgame activities at CT15, they get very repetitive, very fast. Trust me, this is coming from someone who's done many more runs than they should have done, and after a while you auto mode everything, because it does get a little bit lackluster even when you're changing your build up as much as I do. Now, the reason they need to change the endgame, and why I'm saying they need some kind of a wave mode, some kind of a horde mode to implement, is because the game is designed around the characters and how fun they should be playing to your own playstyle. But because of the timer that's on the actual game, you're not actually allowed to do that. You have to make it so that your character is as powerful as possible, will one shot, two shot, whatever shot you need to clear the maps as fast as possible. But before I played this game, and I tend to look into research games quite a lot, I made a few builds, I looked up some stuff, and if you had a little look, from face value, you would look at the Devastator. He would be your tank. You would look at the Trickster. He would be your assassin type. You would look at your Pyromancer, who would be your kind of elemental nuker. And then you would look at your Technomancer, and to me he very much looked like the support class. When you actually play the game, it's very different. The Pyromancer can kind of do a little bit of everything, but he is the best support class in the game. He's very anomaly based, one of the strongest, if not the strongest class in the game currently, but he's also very good at support. The Technomancer, 9 times out of 10, is never going to do any support moves in his life, because he hits so hard with his anomaly rounds. His blight rounds hit harder than any other class, and it makes his weapon damage and firearms just absolutely ridiculous, so most people will go down that style. The Devastator is just straight up not as strong as he should be. He's tanky, he is very tanky, but he's not a tank. His actual taunt move is just not the best. I feel like he needs a self taunt or something already built in. He's not the best in a group, to be perfectly honest. With an amazing build, he can hold his own, he really can. But to me, the role that he should be playing is able to pull everyone in, make it so that an area effect goes off, very much like his endless mass, but without that kind of a cooldown and without it being that situational. He should be able to do that a lot more often, be a lot more of an instigator and being able to get out and lead because he's got that leap move anyway. However, most times he's pretty much going to be using mod moaning winds and using Nerfquake, and that's about the gist of it. That's all he's going to be doing, trying to clear content as fast as he can and probably doing it solo. In fact, the only class that seems to do pretty much what I thought from the start is the actual Trickster class. They are very assassin based. Some of their moves don't make sense to me a little bit, like the bubble or the reverse time. They don't seem to come into play anywhere near as much as you'd think, but they are kind of stereotypical to the type of character you would believe them to be when you first saw the game. The others, they just don't work too well together. A lot of times you've got to get your ammo back in your anomaly rounds. If someone else steals that kill, that means that doesn't work out for you. A lot of times the person is trying to get as much damage on things as possible, no teamwork involved. It doesn't matter what mods they've got on, it's going to be for their own benefit. It's a little bit odd, and to be honest, if they had a horde mode and people could use their actual abilities to heal, they could use different mods, you could have a tank that tanks everything because they need to hold the aggro, you could have your pyromancer doing debuff on everything, your technomancer could then do some healing waves and just freeze everything, making sure there's a lot of AoE and a lot of CC, and of course then your trickster could go out and pop everything with a shotgun after he's been buffed. That right there is kind of the core mechanics of any multiplayer game. The classes should have a designated role. You can obviously change them around a little bit if you want to change off spec, but at the moment no class seems to play this style at all. They all just go pure damage, 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 because you've always got that timer and you've got to clear everything as fast as possible, meaning you can't muck around with your builds anywhere near as much as you'd like to or try certain things because you just aren't able to in the game currently. For me, if they managed to implement a horde mode or a wave mode, that right there would give this game a lot more replayability. It would give the game a lot more longevity, and of course they could add bosses. There's quite a few bosses in the game at the moment. Me for one, I would love to see this boss right here, the one from the intro. They could add some new ones after every 10 waves or so. They could make this game a lot of fun. The one reason that I think this will never happen, and the one reason why I think Outriders is struggling more than the fact that its legendary drop rate was so bad at the start, is because of its connection problems. The fact that it's not designated servers really has kind of come back to bite it, and honestly, unless they can fix that, there's only so much you can do in a kind of designed for multiplayer game that most people are going to end up playing solo player and have done everything quite a lot. That's just my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you guys and girls think. Do you think there's anything that they could chuck in as endgame? Could they chuck in a raid of sorts or something really fun? For me, horde mode, wave mode, that's definitely the way forward. If they can implement it, if they can make the connections more stable, I think this game would be around for a long time if they could make it a little bit more fun at endgame. But as always guys and girls, that's just my 2 cents. Take care, I'll see you on the next day.